Hi, this is Eddie with a Mindful Emergence, where Margaret and I are in the waking up business, where we offer mindfulness, movement, and breathing practices, as well as plant medicine when appropriate for those wanting healing and spiritual transformation. And I want to talk about something that a lot of people who are involved with plant medicine don't know about, or they're just plain in denial about, and that is cannabis withdrawal. And I have to admit, somewhat with embarrassment, that I didn't really understand how impactful, how difficult cannabis withdrawal is. And that is because my use of cannabis, although somewhat regular, is very light. When I smoke cannabis, I take a little quarter teaspoon measuring spoon and I put in a little bit of flour and I take a puff and I meditate. And maybe 3 hours later, I'll do a little bit more. And then sometimes I vape, which is very, very small amounts. And when I use edibles, I'm not going for those great big, huge, fat gummies with tons of THC in it. I'm just using 5, 10 milligrams of Delta 9 and that sort of thing. Or else I'm using tinctures which have sometimes not even have THC in it. They're not psychoactive. But what happened is, and I did a couple of videos where I talked about how I used cannabis for pain management. I'm not going to go through all that. You can watch those videos and it explains what's happening. But I was using it very, very heavily. And then because I had surgery. And then after surgery, I stopped using it abruptly. And wow, I was hit with all kinds of symptoms, irritability, difficulty sleeping, uh, all kinds of physical symptoms, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then finally, somehow, I can't even remember how I got a hold of this information, but I realized this is cannabis withdrawal. Now, I'm not going to equate it with heroin withdrawal, which I actually went through back in 1970. That's another matter altogether. But this was very difficult. Uh, Probably not that dissimilar from going through COVID, to be quite frank. So a lot of people don't know about this. Or, like I said, they just want to kind of ignore it. Um, I had an interesting conversation a couple of weeks ago. There's a dispensary here in town that opened up a new location downtown. I wanted to go check it out. And I went in and it wasn't very busy. It was kind of early in the day. And I went back to where they had all the flour and everything displayed. So I was talking to the guy back there and he was, happy to talk with me. So we started talking about how we use it. And I told him, I said, yeah, I just smoke a little bit here and there. I meditate. And turns out he was just open. He said he's kind of a wake and bake guy. He gets up in the morning and right away he starts hitting the pipe. And he told me that he probably smoked about 50 times a day, which absolutely blows my mind. Now, I believe him because after that, I actually, oh, and he tells me, I don't smoke when I come to work. Right. So I went for a walk later and I happened to circle back to get my car that was parked nearby. And I saw him out front. And guess what he was doing? Sure, he was hitting it. So, I know people, I mean, I get a gram of flour. It can easily last me a week or longer you know. But I know people are smoking a gram or two a day or even more. And I got to tell you, if that's the case, then if they have to suddenly stop, it could be a problem. And so I mentioned to this young man behind the counter, I said, uh, I just kind of went through this, and he kind of looked at me and goes, "Yeah, yeah, I hope that never happens to me." Well, there are all kinds of circumstances that could arise where he suddenly has to stop using cannabis, either to get a job or because he's got surgery or anesthesia coming up, or who knows, maybe, I hate to say it, he gets arrested. I mean, there are all kinds of circumstances where heavy cannabis users are suddenly faced with the reality they don't have access to it. So, I'm not giving medical advice. What I suggest you do is do your research. But here's the problem. A lot of the information you get out there is from treatment centers because people can get addicted to cannabis. Yes, you can get addicted to cannabis. That's true. And so sometimes they have to go to treatment, and sometimes they have to go through a detox before they're even admitted because of heavy cannabis use. So you'll get information from these different treatment centers. You also get it from SAMHSA, SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is an organization that's widely used for information. So I'm not saying it's wrong information. Just know that when you're getting information from treatment centers, they tend to look at cannabis as a scourge, something that has no medical value at all. So just kind of take that into consideration as you're sifting through the information. Please be thorough. If you are a very, very heavy user, that's your business. It's not mine. But just know there is risk associated, especially if you have to abruptly stop using it. So that's my message. If you have comments, information, I love to hear from them. I do cannabis consulting for seniors. If you're coming back to this plant after a long time away or you're kind of new to it and it seems overwhelming, you walk into a dispensary and you go, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. Please contact me. I'll tell you about the work that I do to try to help you use it safely, intentionally, and maybe even for spiritual evolution. So thanks for watching.